Hello friends, in this video, I'll explain you how to perform one sample Z-test using Excel. Although, if I talk about Excel for one sample Z-test, under the data analysis toolpack, there is nothing like one sample Z-test available. But we can use Excel as a calculator to perform one sample Z-test. So, to understand how we can perform one sample Z-test using Excel, here I have taken one problem. So firstly, we will read the problem and then we will see how we can perform Z-test in Excel. So the problem is, suppose you are the manager of fast food restaurant. You want to determine whether the population mean waiting time to place an order has changed in the past month from its previous population mean value of 4.5 minutes. From the past experience, you can assume that the population is normally distributed with a population standard deviation of 1.2 minutes. You select a sample of 35 orders during 1 hour period and the sample mean is 5.1 minutes. We need to check whether there is an evidence at 5% level of significance that the population mean waiting time to place an order has changed in the past month from the previous population mean value. So friends, here after reading this problem, first question comes whether we need to apply Z-test or T-test. So here you can refer my previous video in that I have discussed when we need to use Z-test and when we need to use T-test. So here we can understand this thing after looking at the data. So we can see here that we are having the sample of 35 orders. That means we can say this thing that the N, that is the sample size, is greater than 30. So this is the one thing. Second, we can see we are having the population standard deviation or variance. So standard deviation is 1.2 and when we can square it, it will become the variance. So that means population standard deviation is also known here. So that way we are having the two things to identify whether we need to apply Z or T. So after identifying them and after matching them with the standard parameters, we can understand this thing that here we need to apply Z-test. Now further, we need to find whether the hypothesis which we are going to frame here, that would be for the one tail test or two tail test. So friends, here you can read the last line very carefully. In this last line, you can read this word changed. So this word is saying that we need to check here whether there is an evidence at 5% level of significance that the population mean waiting time to place an order has changed in the past month from its previous population mean value. That means whether the mean waiting order time has changed or not. It has not mentioned here that the mean waiting time has increased or decreased. That means no direction is mentioned here. So that way, our hypothesis framing will be based on two-tailed test. Now here I will firstly write down the hypothesis. So the hypothesis will be there is no significant difference in the mean waiting time of orders for the sample and population. This is the one way of formulation of the null hypothesis, or we can make this hypothesis in the symbol form also, that is H0 or H0 is mu is equals to X bar. Alternatively, we can say there is a significant difference in the mean waiting order time for sample and the population. Now, if we talk about what things are given to us in this particular problem, we can see we are having the population mean as 4.5, population standard deviation is 1.2, sample size is 35 and sample mean is 5.1. So now friends, if we want to perform Z-test using Excel, so we need to follow or perform the Z-test with the help of this particular formula. The formula of Z-test is Z equals X bar minus mu divided by sigma divided by root N. So here all the things are listed. We need to only find the value of Z firstly. So I will divide this formula into two parts. Firstly, I will calculate the numerator part and then I'll find the denominator. So numerator of the formula says X bar minus mu. X bar is the sample mean, mu is the population mean. So I'm writing here a equal sign and then I can select the sample mean, put a minus sign and select the population mean and press enter. So this way, this is the numerator value. Now we need to find denominator. So denominator is standard deviation divided by square root of n, that is this sample size square root. So here I am putting the equal sign. Standard deviation of population is 1.2. So I am selecting 1.2, that is C18, divided by square root, SQRT function I need to use here, and inside the bracket I need to select the sample size, that is 35. Closing the bracket, pressing the enter, I'll get the value of denominator. So I'm having the numerator, I'm having the denominator. I can divide numerator by denominator to get the Z value. So here I can write the Z, this would be our calculated value. So this would be this numerator divided by denominator. So the Z calculated value is 2.95804. So in the problem it is mentioned we need to check our hypothesis at 5% level of significance. So friends, at different level of significance, the value will be different. So now we can see the values. So friends, we can find here in this particular Excel sheet, I have mentioned various kind of level of significance and the Z value on that. So here firstly we need to see we are having the one-tailed and two-tailed, both the values of Z is available. So as our hypothesis is based on two-tailed test, so we need to look at this particular row. Now level of significance is 5%. So at 5% level of significance, the Z value is 1.96. So coming back to this particular previous sheet, we can see our Z critical. The table value is known as the critical value. It is 1.96. And the thumb rule means on what basis we will accept or reject the hypothesis. It is based on the critical and Z value. So friends, it is quite clear that our Z calculated value is greater than our Z critical value. So that means in that case, we are saying if our calculated value is greater than critical value, so we are not going to accept the null hypothesis. So that means if I'm not accepting the null hypothesis, I can conclude that there is a significant difference in mean waiting order times for the sample and the population. Now, this is the one way of acceptance and rejection of the null hypothesis. The other way, if we are using any software, so using a software, we can also get the significant value, that is the p-value. So in case of Z, we need to use, I'm writing here the function. So you need to put a equal sign 1 minus norm dot s dot dist. This function we need to use here. And inside this, we need to pass two things, the Z value and the cumulative value. So Z value means Z calculated value you need to pass. So I am selecting this cell where I have calculated the Z value, putting a comma, and then you need to put a true, that is 1. Either you can type true or you can select this true, or also you can write 1. So both are same. And then you can press enter. So this way, this is giving you the p-value. But this p-value is for the one-tailed test. But remember, our hypothesis is for the two-tailed test. So for getting the hypothesis for two-tailed test, what we need to do? We need to multiply the one-tailed t-test p-value by 2. We will double the p-value. And that way, this would be our p-value. So we can write this is our p-value or significant value. So now, as we are comparing, as we are checking our hypothesis at 5% level of significance, so we can make a comparison and we can say this value is less than 0.05. So that means again, this is saying that we do not need to accept the null hypothesis and we can again make the same conclusion. So friends, whether we are making our acceptance and whether we are making the acceptance and rejection decision using the critical and calculated value or p-value, both will give you the same results. So this will not affect your conclusion. So friends, I hope you people have understood this thing, that how we can perform one sample Z test using the Excel. So thank you so much for watching this video. I hope this video will help you out to understand and perform one sample Z test using Excel. Thank you. Happy learning.